What's up, chat? How are you today? And I see some people are coming in. I don't usually stream on Sundays, so thank you for being with us on the weekend. I try to just hang with my family and not do internet stuff on the weekends. But we have special guests today, which is so exciting. And thank you guys so much for coming on. This is absolutely amazing. It's a very much an honor to speak with Mike Grell, who is one of the best comic writers of all time with us right here. Amazing. And we have his editor, Jeff Messer, right here also, who is working on this beautiful project on Kickstarter, which we're going to get to in just a moment. I guess I'll just put it up on screen so we can all see this beautiful Kickstarter project. I came across this. This was posted in an Omnibus Collectors group on Facebook. And somebody said, Mike Grell's Sable's getting this like deluxe hardcover thing. Have you guys seen this? And I was like, no, I have not. And I was so excited to find this. Obviously, as you can see, I backed it immediately. So I've never read Sable before. And I think this is
there's going to be a quiz
for people. Yes. I think it's going to be a golden age for people who are discovering comics from like the 80s and 90s, because all this stuff is getting reprinted in these beautiful collected editions at the now. And this is something that's new. There has been like a paperback collected edition of Sable, I believe, already.
In 2000, almost 20 years ago, IDW did a series in like 2004, 2005, etc. So,
and I believe those are getting out of print and difficult to find and expensive also. Yes. And so this is a great way to check things out. And Jeff, are you the one producing these volumes right here?
It's a team effort. Okay. This was sort of my harebrained idea back during 2020 when we were all stuck and bored at home. At some point, we had started doing Kickstarters with Mike and some of his projects, and I said, "Hey, we should do a remastered, oversized John Sable project. We'll launch it in December of 2020." And in 2021, the pandemic will be over and we'll be geniuses because we'll have all this great stuff to do. And of course,
awesome.
No, we were not geniuses. The pandemic and everything dragged on for another year and a half or so with shortages, supply chain issues, what have you. So it took us 2 years to get the first book printed because of the time that we were doing it in. And we wanted to do it right. Glenn Hammond of Comic Mix, and he's done a lot of work in the past with Mike and worked on the IDW trades and some other reprint editions of John Sable. He had all the files. We went through him, and he's the one that did all of the color remastering and kind of the tweaking that went on in the first volume and in the second volume and moving forward.
This is a tremendous amount of work to do this. I actually, because I've been talking with Chuck Dixon about doing this with Airboy, his 80s book, because same thing, he had an IDW reprint of it. Those are getting hard to find now. And, they just kind of took scans and then put it in. It wasn't like beautifully done or anything like these books. And so it's like, I feel like
page by page. This is page by page remastered, as we call it. So
do you go in and you have a colorist basically kind of touch things up, and like is that kind of how you do things?
The hardest part was trying to explain to people what we wanted to do. I hate, and I know a lot of fans hate, the fully recolored, modernized color being added to. It's universal. Everybody hates that you make it look like modern coloring, but it's an older, Bronze Age.
I got what did I get? Here's one of the most egregious ones right here.
The Swamp Thing, right? You're going to pull out the Swamp
Thing.
You
knew it. Right? You knew it right away.
Oh That's God. The one that everybody is going crazy that they hate.
You open this up.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't even open it up because it's too tightly in here. Oh well, I'm not going to do it. It's so bad.
Weren't the original colors on that book done by Tatiana Wood?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think so. For Swamp Thing.
Why would you get out crayons and recolor the Mona Lisa?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and the
It
key to
reminds
the
me of that.
sale.
Do you guys remember
Yeah.
that fresco that got done in Spain, and they were touching it up, and it was a beautiful old Renaissance drawing, and then it
Yeah.
became like just like this like little scribble. It was all, yeah. This is exactly what they did to Swamp Thing. It's very sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So our goal was to sort of fix, and the first volume were all newsprint. The first 13 issues were newsprint. So
Mhm.
the original files we were working with, the colors, we wanted it to look like the original colors, but better, to bring out and enhance it and just sharpen it up a bit. There were, because of the era that we're talking about, there were printing mistakes, there were coloring mistakes, there were things in these issues that simply just got overlooked or missed, or because of the limitations of printing at the time, just kind of skipped, like, oh, nobody will notice that was miscolored or this was miscolored. And so we were able to go back and fix a lot of mistakes, not a lot, but I mean there were some mistakes from the original issues, as well as just make it pop a little bit more. And so we've got some reviews from people from the first volume on the top of the Kickstarter, and the beautiful thing is that we were able to preserve the original color intent, but just make it shine a little bit more, make it a little more, I don't want to say modernized, but just give it a little more luster than those old pixelated newsprint pages had.
Nice. Oh, I'm excited for this. So I in my comic circles where I've been talking, reading, I've had a lot of people whispering to me about Sable for several years, and I just hear this title come up over and over and over again. I'm glad I can check it out with such a beautiful edition. That's going to make it even better. So for Mike Grell, if you guys are not familiar with Mike Grell here, I don't know why you wouldn't be. I mean, he is the definitive Green Arrow writer. He really just transformed that character from something extremely hokey into something that is just awesome. And so he did that. He was on Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes at the beginning of, like, not just you, but like that Legion of Superheroes, like at that time. And then going forward through that the Darkness saga there. Like, I mean, that whole it was just like one great firing book after another, like with incredible creatives on it. I mean, that's a cool thing to have been a part of. How'd you get hooked up with that, Mike?
Luck of the draw. I mean, just sheer stupidity and dumb luck. The bumblebee who didn't read the book, right? I happened to be in Julie Schwartz's office, and I was turning in. Actually, it was Joe Orlando's office. I was turning in my second assignment. And when I got home, the phone rang. And Joe said, you think you can handle a monthly book? I went, hell yes. It's like when you ask an actor, can you ride a horse or can you scuba dive? Right? Right. Hell yes. And he said, well, Murray Boltonoff is on vacation, and he doesn't know it yet, but Dave Cockrum just walked off the Legion of Superheroes, and he's minus an artist. So went in a few days later, talked to Murray. He gave me a tryout book, which was 7 pages of pencils that Dave had already completed, and said, do the finishes on these, and then we'll see. So I finished them up, brought him in, and he disappeared down to Carmine Infantino's office, came back about 15 minutes later and said, I got good news and I got bad news. I said, well, what's the good news? He said, you got the job. I said, okay, what's the bad news? He said, you can expect to get hate mail. And I said, I haven't done anything yet. It doesn't matter. For starters, you're replacing the most popular artist we ever had on the book. And to top things off, we're going to kill off one of the fans' favorite characters in your first issue. And he was right.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
so
like,
you got a ton of hate
Grell,
for
you
that, huh?
suck. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was all full of Grell, you suck. And bring back Dave. We want Dave.
So in comic, people are very subtle people who understand the natures that it's just an assignment and you're just doing what you're doing. No, I'm just kidding.
Thank goodness the internet didn't exist in the 70s, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's such a wild time. I mean, so I mean, and actually, like your major runs, of course, like with Super Legion of Superheroes, Green Arrow, and Iron Man, like all of those three had major changes to characters going on as you're doing them. I guess with Green Arrow and Iron Man, it was a little more intentional. I mean, were you told? Well, with Iron Man's secret identity being revealed and all that, was that done before you were like, or was that during your run?
No, it's long after my run.
Oh, it was after your run. I thought that was
Yeah,
yours.
yeah,
Well,
oh yeah.
Okay.
Robert Downey, yeah, yeah.
Well, you
Okay.
revealed it. You revealed his
Right.
identity.
You revealed it.
Right.
Yeah, as
I
Tony Stark.
revealed it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was you.
yeah, but
Yes.
the movie, yeah, that was my vindication. The the changes that I made to the Iron Man character were a lot like the changes that I made to Green Arrow. There were reasons why I did it in order to do the kind of stories that I wanted to do. In Iron Man, in particular, sort of going at this bass backwards, but in Iron Man in particular, Tony Stark had grown to be the same shape as the suit. Okay, he was like, "I'm Tony Stark. See my muscles,
Yeah.
right? Right?
Very mid 90s. Yes.
Yeah, right. And in doing so, the suit became so all powerful. To me, it was like Superman. Not not to denigrate Superman by any means, but when you have a character who is all powerful, you have to find a way to create a threat that's going to mean something to him and to the readers. If you can't touch him, who cares, right? You know he's going to win at the end of the day. Same thing had happened with the Iron Man. The suit was just too damn powerful. So, among other things, I put him on a crash diet, removed about 100 pounds of muscle, took him back and gave him that initial cardiac weakness that he had. That if he didn't have the heart thingy going for him, he could die. In addition to it, I made it so that he did have to, again, recharge the suit and his heart every 24 hours, or everything goes dead, including possibly him. And I added something else. I made it possible for him to use the heart energy to power the suit as a last ditch effort, which lends a possibility for personal sacrifice, right? Not just a danger to the character, but it's possible for him to sacrifice himself for the greater good, which you hardly ever see anymore. And then what I did was to develop the story where he reveals his secret identity. I had everybody's permission to do this. I didn't just take it on myself and run rampant through the halls yelling, "I'm going to reveal his identity." No, it wasn't anything like that. We planned this for months in advance and set it up to where the character of Pepper Potts, who's now married to Happy Hogan, Tony's best chum, gets pregnant. And because of something that Stark is in the middle of, he's central to this, she's badly injured and loses the baby. And he has the feeling that in a different world, that should have been his son, should have been his. And so I did this story where the Stark Industries is having this big press conference, whatever, up on the terrace of their building, and down the street there's a couple of guys robbing a mom and pop. And as they're making their getaway, there's a little boy who's got a dog on a leash. The puppy breaks loose, runs out into the street, and Stark up there sees what's going on, doesn't hesitate with the cameras rolling and everything. He goes over the edge. Suit comes on him. He smashes the car to smithereens, stops the car, saves the puppy, and all his friends are totally pissed off. Like, you bastard. You kept this secret from us all these years and you revealed it for a dog? He said, I didn't do it for the dog. I did it for him. He's put a little boy. And
yeah, I remember reading that. And I remember I was upset with the Pepper Potts. You know, I feel like I don't, you know, I don't love the comic trope of the losing the baby thing. They did that with Mary Jane too. Around
when did they do that?
And gosh, when was that? It was during the Clone Saga deal, which I think was around the same time. But I remember being very upset by that. But it is a good storytelling device that's very emotionally poignant. And so I understand it now much more than I did back then.
Well,
first of all, it's hurting a baby, right?
Well,
yeah,
but there was a reason for all of that. Okay,
right.
But then the fight started, and it was divided among two factions. We were well and thoroughly into the era of social media then, and the squabble was between two factions among the fans. One was in favor of what I had done. The other one was in favor of it should have been something cosmic, galactic, that would cause him to reveal his identity. But that, again, took away from what my intent was, which was to focus on the man inside the iron, right? Iron Man. But I wanted to go back to focusing on Stark's personal life. And
that's great.
The both sides were very vocal, and at that point, my editor and the publisher got into a screaming match in the hallways. And the next thing I know, I'm out. It was just that fast. Yeah, it was just that fast and that simple. They tried to sweep it under the rug. They tried to ignore it and pretend that it never happened. Just don't even address that issue again. And it wasn't until Robert Downey Jr. stands up at the end of Iron Man, goes, I'm Iron Man. That was
oh my gosh,
vindication for me.
You got that, and I feel like that's interesting. They were actually they were were your editors actually paying attention to the message boards and all that back then? Is that, and they just saw that reaction? That was it seemed to be just because of that.
I think they were. It would have been early on, relatively early on in terms of people using the internet to communicate their opinions, as opposed to taking the time to sit down and write a letter.
Right.
I mean, nobody writes a letter anymore.
Yeah, I know. I'm kind of sad about that. I'd like to write letters.
Yeah, well, don't you got Chat GPT? You got Chat GPT that'll write anything for you.
So, that's true. I can talk to the internet. I can talk to the AI. Yeah.
Letters columns are a lost art form. I love them.
It's fun, and I actually really like the collected editions that print the letters columns. Are you doing that with the John Sable?
Which is what we did.
Yeah. We're doing a whole separate supplemental book that reprints the letters columns, house ads, artwork that we can find that Mike did as sketches that are current to the period that the issues came out. So every volume of the book we do will have a companion book with it that has all of the letter columns and all the other stuff, that we can find from the
did I get
era.
So let's go over the tiers, because I want to make sure I'm getting that. That's cool.
Oh yeah. No,
so I got the volume 1 and 2, the volume 1 and 2 bundle here. Does that come with that supplemental deal?
Yes, the Kickstarter funded. Once we hit the funding amount, one of the first stretch goals was to pay for the letter column book addition to the campaign.
Oh,
so
cool.
Everybody gets it. Everybody gets it. That is part of the campaign.
Great.
And
that's
one of the best letter columns ever.
A lot of fun.
Mike Gold. Yeah, Mike Gold was the editor on that book, and Mike must have been a professional little brother or something, because he just loves to get a stick and poke that hornet's nest. And the responses that we got, and the responses that he handed out in the letter column for Sable were just phenomenal. Some really hysterical, really hysterical, entertaining stuff.
Okay.
There are people who, one young lady wrote in because I did a shot of Sable in the shower, and it's full length, or reasonably
Oh,
full
boy.
body, and yeah, but I covered the
Hey, be careful now. I don't know if
Yeah.
if we're censored
Yeah.
here.
yeah, I covered up certain bits with the water spray, and she was incensed. You'll have to um, subscribe to this
Oh, I'm excited.
omnibus,
So she wanted to see
and get
this.
and
She was
yes,
outraged.
she did.
She didn't
Yes,
get to see
she did.
all the good bits were carefully hidden, and she was not a happy reader.
Now, Jeff, what you should have done, because this Kickstarter, if I don't know if you've seen a lot of Kickstarter comic campaigns, but
Yeah.
if you do an uncensored variant and you put John Sable in the shower uncensored, you're gonna make so much more money.
So well, I'll throw this challenge out. So if that young lady, who's no longer a young lady, is still out there and is still upset, she can pledge on a tier that includes a full figure sketch and request that Mike do the full figure sketch of that panel.
Oh, jeez.
Without the water turned on. Just turn the water off and let it all hang out, as they might say. So there you go. So you could request that. So,
but I'll warn you, everybody knows what happens in the shower. I mean, it just has a tendency to go.
Yeah, there's a pruning quality to water.
Nice. So Sable came about after your Green Arrow run, correct? That's you kind of wrapped that up and then moved to this, or am I in the wrong order?
No, the other way around.
Yeah, other way around. Okay. So after
I had
your
done
Legion of Superheroes,
Warlord. First I did Legion of Superheroes, then the Warlord, then Green Lantern, Green Arrow. Okay, that was Denny O'Neil's reboot, beginning in 1975. And then,
so that was after Denny O'Neil, obviously. Then,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
This was after the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil.
After the Neil and Denny run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which lasted 13 issues, starting in I think 69 and ending in 70. I might be wrong, but I think it was 69.
And then the book took several years off, and when they brought it back, Denny brought Mike in to do the art with around issue number 93 or 94, and went past 100 issue, the 100 issue of Green Arrow, Green Lantern. So, or Green Lantern.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. So then I had done Star Slayer was a title that I came up with, intending it to be a companion book to the Warlord, where the Warlord is a modern day man in a prehistoric society, practically, and the Star Slayer is a first century Celtic barbarian who gets transported into the far distant future at the moment of his death. He's in battling against the Romans. And as he throws himself onto the Roman spear points, rather than be taken prisoner and become a slave, he's zapped into the far distant future, where he's set this task to help lead a ragtag band of rebels, essentially trying to save the world from ultimate destruction. I did that with a company called Pacific Comics. They went out of business very, very quickly. And Mike Gold, who had been public relations guy at DC Comics and a good friend for several years before that, called me up one day and said, "Look, I'm editing over at DC now." Actually, no, sorry, I jumped ahead of myself. He called me up and said, we're starting a company in Chicago called First Comics, as in First Comics, then drugs, then the babysitter winds up in the freezer. And we'd like you to come over here and do something for us. I said, something what? And he said, carte blanche, anything you want. And that's when I came up with Sable. I was tired was tired of doing muscle-bound guys in skin-tight suits. I wanted to do something that was centered more in the real world, and I wanted to do the kind of action stories that I enjoy reading, and um, I incorporated tons of things that I really love personally. I've been uh, an avid Africa buff since I was a kid. When I saw I'm pretty sure the first movie I ever saw was Tarzan, the Ape Man, with Johnny Weissmuller. Pretty sure. Um,
So are
and that,
you're a big Edgar Rice Burroughs fan then?
oh yeah, yeah. So that started me off, um, and I thought if I can give him an African background of some sort, that'll be great. But I wanted to be very specific that he was not like regular superheroes, nothing like superheroes. So the shorthand premise for it is Sable is the reverse of Batman. There's no secret identity. Um, yes, he paints his face with um, camouflage makeup, but you can smear whatever you want over your face and you're not going to fool anybody. You walk down the street and you go, Fred, you really look stupid with that stuff all over your face, right?
If you put glasses on, nobody will recognize you, though.
Yeah. Right. Apparently, yeah. So there's no superpowers, no secret identity. His only big, deep, dark secret. I mean, everybody knows he's Mr. Blood and Guts. Okay. His only deep, dark secret is that he's a closet nice guy. He writes a series of children's books about a troop of leprechauns living in a fairy mound in Central Park, and they're based on bedtime stories that he told his own children. And the only time he ever wears a disguise or goes by a different name is his pen name, B.B. Flim, Flemm. When it's written out, it doesn't look bad at all. But when you say it, it's pretty neat, like, Flim. Yep. That's exactly what I had in mind. And when he has to do a personal appearance, he'll put on Harpo Marx wig, pair of nerd glasses, a fake mustache, tweed jacket, and goes on as BB Flim. His problem is he can never remember what the BB stands for. It's either Billy Bob or Booger Brains or Byron Buford or something like that. Whatever strikes him in the moment. And so, of course, when ABC picked it up in 1987 for a very mercifully short-lived series, they reversed my reverse and made it exactly like Batman. By day, the mild-mannered children's author. By night, the dark Avenger. Oh, yeah. It was terrible. It was canceled. I think one of the second episode was on the air. But the only good thing that came out of that was Renee Russo made her acting debut as Eden Kendall. Yeah, as Sable's literary agent, Eden Kendall. And she was just fantastic. If you do watch the series, you can't take your eyes off her. I mean, she is just that compelling. Even though that was her debut, she just stole every scene she was in. Really, really a great lady. For what it's worth, department. If we were casting that Sable movie today, I would cast her as Eden Kendall today. Because she's still got it. She's still got it. So
this looks absolutely beautiful. So just as a basic premise plot, because we got people in here who might back this. So Sable. So you said you kind of stripped away that and made a reverse Batman kind of thing. So he's a mercenary, sort of super spy type of person.
Mercenary, bounty hunter, bodyguard, anything for a buck for hire. His background is that he was a game warden in Africa. Actually, originally he was an a U.S. Olympic pentathlete, which is modern pentathlon is running, riding, pistol shooting, fencing, and horseback riding. It was actually created during the Napoleonic era for couriers who had to be able to deliver a message across great distances. If you had to, you start off on horseback. If your horse gets shot out from under you, you have to run. If you come to a river, you have to swim it. If you had encounter enemy, you shoot first, and then you whip out your sword and defend yourself the best you can. So after the Olympic Games, it was originally, bear in mind that Sable debuted in '83. The backstory of this was that he was at the Olympic Games in Munich when the terrorist attack happened. And following that, he met and fell in love with a girl from Rhodesia and followed her home and started a family and became a game warden. And then he managed to make himself such a pain in the ass that the poachers wiped out his family in a reprisal raid. He was absent at the time and always wished that he had been there because it would have been easier on him if he had died with them than to carry on. But as a result, he goes off his nut, tracks down the guys responsible, and slaughters them in the most horrific ways you can imagine. And following that, if all you have left to live for is vengeance, what do you do when your vengeance is done? In Sable's case, he became a drunk, thrown in jail repeatedly. Then he falls in with a band of mercenaries who were on a mission going up country into the bush where the bush wars are still raging at the time. And when that mission is over, he's arrested because he's been declared persona non grata. They pitch him out of the country. They send him back to New York, where he's got nothing else to do. He's working on his memoir, not getting any luck with it, and he's keeping body and soul together as a mercenary, hiring out something dangerous. At the core of the character, he's a guy with a death wish. He really regrets that he wasn't home to die with his family. Now he's there. He's a guy with a death wish, but not to the extent that he's going to put a bullet in his own head. He wants somebody else to do it.
He's going to throw himself into danger all the time. Okay.
Right,
which makes for good stories.
Somebody who's got nothing left to live for is pretty damn dangerous, especially if he's looking for that kind of trouble. So as the story winds on, he establishes a relationship with the young lady who is illustrating his books. And he's attracted to her, but it's really tough on him because the closer he gets to her, the more distant he starts to feel from his own family, from his original family. And that guilt weighs on him. And it's a continuing arc through the entire run of the book, all the issues of how he comes to terms with his newfound feelings and how he gradually learns to let go of the past and try to find something else to live for.
Nice.
Yeah.
And is
not like real life.
Yeah, which is the overarching the overarching story of the entire series. Really is that it's a lot of action, a lot of really kind of cool stuff going on, but ultimately the attractive part of John Sable is it's a guy with no reason to live finding reasons to live over the course of this human journey that has a lot of action thrown into it, which is what compelled me when I was in my teens and I was reading this book, and I think that's why it's still around. That's why it's still in the consciousness of the fans, is because there's a certain amount of humanity to it that you don't get in other comics, really.
Well, I find that that's been the case with everything I've read of Grell's work. I mean, it's just there's a very human element. You focus on the relationships between characters, and that thing is the difference to me between like a good and great comic. When you have great, those relationships and those human moments are really like what draw out of the comics. So I appreciate that.
Unlike superhero stories,
right?
There's a great thing when Sable gets injured, as he does in the course of his work. Mike actually let the guy, have a cane for several issues of the comic while he's healing. It's like there's this, and I'm sure that the superhero people were like, "What? Next issue, he's got to be back to normal. He's got to be like ready to go." No, it's like the wounds take time to heal, and Mike actually allowed that to play out in the comics, which nobody else had done up to that point.
And the scars don't go away. Nice. He gets new scars as he goes along, and you can read the history of the character in the scars. Really, it's what makes us interesting, right? I mean, somebody who's just pristine and gorgeous to look at. Well, they're nice to look at, but what have you done in your life? What's happened to you in your life? Tell me something interesting about yourself, not just that you're pretty to look at and you're a good guy. Okay. Who really gives a damn about Sir Lancelot? Okay.
Nice. Let's go over the tiers, just so we can talk about like where people should back, depending on like, maybe they just want to check it out, or maybe they're really excited about Sable. So the graphic album #1 is that it looks like it's issues #1 and 2 for people who just want to check this out and see if they like the Sable story. Is that what that's intended to be?
One of the things that we want to do with this remastered art is to reissue some of those in what we're calling kind of European editions, which are about 2 issues worth of comics in a slightly oversized format. And that's what that is. That's the beginning of that. So we will, for people who ultimately miss volume 1, volume 2, whatever, because we're going to limit the print runs on these hardcover books. So 5 years from now, if someone's looking for it, we want them to be able to enjoy the remastered stuff as well. So the graphic album is kind of aimed also to help us do European translations in Spanish, Italian, French, German, what have you, so we can release the books overseas as well.
Awesome. Cool. And you've got the digital version for $35. That's so how many issues is contained in a volume? Are we doing?
The first volume had 13 issues. The second volume has 14. Some of the issues were shorter because there were backup features in some of these issues that are coming out in this volume. It's always going to be around 400 pages per volume.
Cool. Yeah, those are big boy books. So quite a bit here for $35, and you can get, of course, digital volume 1 and 2 for an even bigger discount here, $50. That's great. So you can catch up on where we're at right now, and so that puts you at issue, what is it, 27 right now through these 2 volumes.
You get to the end of 27, yes.
And you're looking to do is it going to be 2 more or 1 more after this?
There'll be 5 total. 5 total volumes.
Okay,
yeah.
Great. Right. So you got those here. Now the hardcovers are on the pricey side, guys, but it's because they're not standard comic size. I'm going to show you guys what we're talking about right here.
Yeah.
I can't get this Swamp Thing out of here. So let me get my Green Lantern Green Arrow so I can actually.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this is what they're kind of going to. Are these going to be in slipcases or not?
There will be at the end. We'll do for volume 5. There will be a slipcase that will.
Cool.
Be offered that you can put everything in at the end. Like a full slipcase for all 5 volumes.
So for now, it's going to look a lot like this. So this is the Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil, Green Lantern, Green Arrow. And you can see this is a standard comic size right here. This is my buddy Pumpsback's book. It's hugely oversized. So you can just like look at the art very nicely. Now, compared to an omnibus, if I can hold this up and the other at the same time. This is yours, Mike.
Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself.
I'm impressed. I would not want to arm wrestle you if you could hold that omnibus in one hand.
Bigger than an omnibus. So you can see that these absolute edition size are amazing. It's like the best way to read comics for real. And
Yep.
this is, by
It's
the way,
big, but
reading
it's not
this
too big.
is the biggest pain. I mean, it's great
Yeah.
comics, but it is the biggest pain in the butt because you cannot hold this book up. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So.
Whoever had that idea, I don't know. And there are a lot of people that complain about those books. That's why we wanted to keep it around 400 pages per. Once you feel it and see it, it's like, this is a manageable size. It gives it a deluxe treatment. If it had gone up to 500 pages, it would start to feel a little too big, I think.
I agree. And I like about that size also. That's about the max where it's comfortable to hold. So it's good.
Right.
So the volume 1 hardcover is also available on here if you just wanted to go into volume 1. I did not find the original Kickstarter. Like I said, I just found this last week. And I went in on both hardcovers, guys, because I'm excited about this. But it looks like you're limiting volume 1. Yeah, well, of course. I mean, I'm excited. People have told me about this comic for so many years. I hear it over and over again. I'm very excited to read this. So thank you.
We're
here it is.
We're
so how many
it.
volume 1s are left? Yeah.
About 250 copies out of the 1,000 copy print run are left, and we may leave it at 1,000. I don't know. Mike and I have talked back and forth about this for a long time as to where we want to cap that number to make these feel more special to the fans who back them. So out of 1,000 that we printed, we've moved about 750 of them. So really happy with that.
So it's very low. So by the time like the next one comes out, there's not going to be a lot of volume 1s left. It sounds like.
Chances are, yeah. Over time, they're going to be fewer and fewer. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
I've always been of the opinion that if something exists in an edition of 100,000, that's not a collectible.
It's not.
It just isn't. It just means that you haven't gotten around to buying it yet, or you didn't want it bad enough to buy it in the first place.
Yeah.
But if you have something that is limited and honestly limited, like if you want this, you better jump in now or you're not going to get another chance. Then it actually has value. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, when there's only 1,000 of these floating around in the world, people are going to go, I got to have me one of those.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they're going to be crazy on eBay. And I know how that goes. Trying to find things like that. Oh my gosh. So cool. You guys can so Mike, you do sketches too, which is awesome. So
yes.
I know we have a lot of art fans in the chat here who like to get limited sketches and things like that. And there's various levels of different sketches he'll do for you. A wonderful artist. I want to look at
there you go. That one right there. Yeah.
This one right
that
here.
One that's up right there.
Beautiful.
That's one of my all-time favorites.
That's a relatively new offering. We just made that part of the campaign about a week into it. Mike has been doing this so long that if he gets bored at a convention, he'll invent something new to do. So he started doing these like this at a convention about 2 months ago, and everybody loves them, and they look stunning. These charcoal paper with ink and chalk white highlights are just
that's gorgeous,
stunning. Yeah.
So this leads me to a question. So I do a lot of comics myself, and so do a lot of people in the chat. And I always talk with artists, and I always say, like, this woman doesn't look quite feminine enough or pretty enough and that seems to be a common, I say, failure in artists. Is there like something about drawing the features of a woman to look like this is like just stunningly beautiful? Is there like a trick to making that happen that you can verbalize?
For anyone who's ever met my wife, you'll know that I'm really attracted to beautiful women.
Oh,
I just am.
That's sweet.
I just am. There is, I can't tell you a trick. I'm not one of these guys who has a formula for how to draw a face, how to create something that's pretty. I just draw what I'm feeling at the moment. And in this case, I was focusing on the eyes first, but then the expression, and minimizing everything else, the way the hair frames the face, but the whole head is not delineated. And that little wisp of hair coming down her face out of place, a little imperfection, makes a really beautiful woman seem a little more accessible.
That it softens her is what it does. I like
Yeah.
that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's amazing because it's the eyes are just piercing the viewer.
Yes.
It's like that's that thing. It's like, oh my God, she's looking right through me. I will anecdotally say, several years ago, I did a live interview, video interview with Mike, and there was a lady who came up and asked a question, and just one of the things she said was, she says, "Thank you, because you draw the best cheesecake and beefcake of anyone out there." And she was referring to, the warlord and his loincloth and all of that stuff. And it's like, Mike has always been known for drawing sexy people. So, this
I like
is
that.
your chance.
I mean, it's nice. It's nice. I mean, comics is a visual medium, and it's nice to look at pretty things, while you're reading a good story. So I have not gone all the way down to the, what's the ultimate super?
Sorry, I was just going to say that Al Cap, who did Lil Abner, was being accosted by someone for drawing women with big boobs. Why do you always draw women with big boobs? And he said, big boobs are more fun to draw than small boobs.
I could see that. Nice. So, oh man, it's amazing how people get in trouble for drawing things they like these days. But that's
I also got a criticism from Murray Boltonoff, who was editor on the Legion of Superheroes, who said, "You draw your women too tall." I said, "Women are tall." He said, "No, they're not." I said, "Yes, they are." He said, "How tall are you?" I said, 5'6". And he said, "Trust me, women are short, and so are you. Make them a full head shorter than all the men." And I couldn't bring myself to do it. I made them maybe half a head shorter, but not a full head shorter.
The artist's perspective. They're all tall women to him. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So here's with the Ultimate Fan, you get all the stretch goals, sketchbooks, trading cards, postcards. Wow, you'll get drawn into the background of a story. And this is what I found when I was reading this campaign, and I'm kind of looking around. So, Mike, you've been kind of out of comics for a while, it seems like. And
it only seems like it.
New. It only seems like it.
Yeah.
Have we just missed stuff that, like, what?
Yeah.
Oh boy, we'll have to talk about that.
Define comics. Yeah, the monthly
Sure.
comics. Yeah, it's been a while since Mike's been doing the monthlies for sure.
Sure. But what's listed on here is there's going to be new John Sable content that you're doing. So you're making actual new stories with this also.
Yes. Yes.
That's cool. So what's are you going to keep it still set kind of in the 80s? Or are you going to
no,
bring
Sable has always stepped up. I did 2 6-issue miniseries. One was called Blood Trail, which was a way to reintroduce the character to modern audiences and to update him to the current times. Then the second one was called Ashes of Eden, which is a heist wrapped around a nuclear terror plot, and puts them very firmly in contemporary times. You can't take a character, expect him to have longevity, and freeze him in time. You've got to grow. You've got to give him a chance to develop as he goes along. I had to give up on my initial idea, which I managed to hold pretty well with Green Arrow and Sable for quite a while, which was every year I made them a year older. And the reason was I had an argument with Julie Schwartz when I was doing Green Arrow way back when. Elliot Magan was writing the book, and he had a line that he had written where Ollie is complaining about something in his life, and he says, "I'm not even 30 yet." And I went, "That doesn't play." And Julie goes, "Oh, no, no, no. None of our characters are over 30 because our audience can't relate to anybody over 30. I said, "Okay, so how old is Bruce Wayne?" He said, 29. And how long has Dick Grayson been his ward? Would you say 5 years? And he goes, "Yeah, that's about right." I said, "So you're going to tell me that?" And by the way, Robin was supposed to be 15 or 16 years old, right? So
Right.
you're gonna tell me that any judge is going to grant custody of a 10 or a 12-year-old to a 24-year-old billionaire? I mean, this is before Michael Jackson. Give it a second. Yeah, give it a second for that to sink in, right? Right.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Okay, so they settle for eliminating that line, right?"
Yes.
And that was one of the reasons why when I created the Warlord, I started the story when he's 43 years old. He's a jet pilot.
Isn't Ollie say he's 43 in Longbow Hunters also?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what?
Okay.
You know what?
Why's that?
At that point, with Sable and Ollie both, I made them 1 year older than I was at the time.
Oh, that's hilarious. I like
Right.
it.
Right.
Nice.
So my thing with Sable, excuse me, with the Warlord was that starting him at age 43 in 1969, because that's when the story flashes back, right? Then he comes back up to the surface of the world and finds out that 7 years have passed and he's 50 years old. And when he discovers that, he's like, 50? I don't feel 50. Do I look 50? Right? And the point is, if you don't act it, you're not that age. I mean, that's all there is to it. Age is just a number, and it only applies to you if you let it. I used to brag that I never fell off a horse in my life. And then when I turned 45, I bought a horse. 3 years later, 3 years later, I was performing with a group called the Seattle Knights, and I was falling off on purpose 4 or 5 times a day. I was jousting, doing sword fighting, horseback archery, the whole 9 yards. And I just absolutely was not acting my age. And anybody who knows me will tell you I'm still not acting my age. I don't intend to.
A lot of injury prone activity doing that.
I've actually I've never ever been hurt falling off a horse on purpose because I was trained how to do it. It's a pretty extensive course, but it's basically learning to be a stuntman. I don't look it right now, but I was once upon a time I was 143 pounds and could do chin-ups with a guy sitting on my feet that weighed as much as me.
Wow. Look at that.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Grell was a legend.
They don't call him Iron Man for nothing.
There you go. But so the age thing just was another way for me to humanize my characters. Everybody gets a little older. You get a little slower as you go along, except the Warlord. With Ollie, he changed physically as time went on, and the age did take its toll on him, but not so much. Not so much as the time as the miles. He's got some serious street miles on him, and but there was also a point to all of that, which was I don't want my characters to be the same now as they were then. One of the key points in storytelling, good storytelling, is change.
Yes.
with any story. Plot setting, characterization, motivation, conflict, change. The big C is change and resolution. You create the characters and put them in this world and create the conflict, but then part of the conflict has to be, how do they solve the problem? What's the big issue here? So you put them in a situation where they continue doing what they've been doing all along, and it doesn't work. So they got to try something else, and that doesn't work. Not only does it not work, but it makes things worse. And
Yeah.
then you put them in a situation where everything is so completely, totally screwed up that the only way they can solve that conflict is to change their whole way of thinking, change their being, change something about them, change and grow. And that's when you give them the resolution. And resolution should be something that they could, if they look back, they'll be able to track how it developed, but they should not have seen it coming, right? Give them an ending, that's satisfying, but it takes them by surprise.
This is brilliant writing advice. Anybody who is a writer in the chat here, we got a super chat from Geek Avenger. Thank you for the $5. Is Grell still in Seattle? Let him know I'm in his neighborhood. I don't know.
Unfortunately, I left Seattle almost 10 years ago.
Okay.
But I was in Seattle when I created the Longbow Hunters, Green Arrow, the Longbow Hunters, which was one of the reasons why I chose the setting. Number one, I'm a small town guy from a dinky little town in northern Wisconsin, 100 miles north of Green Bay. And in my life at that point, I had only lived in or around 3 cities: Chicago, where I went to art school; New York, where I broke into the comic business, and I had already used that for Sable; and Seattle, where I was living at the time. And so that brought about the change where that costume was not going to work. The 1970s Robin Hood and the green leotards and bare arms. You may have noticed it has a tendency to rain a bit in Seattle. And so sleeves went on, the hood went on. I mean, that was really it. A little Robin Hood hat is not going to keep you dry in the wintertime, not in Seattle. Proper trousers. The reason that I kept everything in the light green, dark green pattern was because I felt that the audience really needed that continuity. So they open a book and go, oh, Green Arrow's got a new costume. Not you open the book and he's wearing purple, right?
Yes.
It just, yeah, they would spend the first issue, if they ever came back to the second issue, wondering, who the hell is this guy running around shooting arrows in the city?
How did you did you have any trouble with editorial and all that, like making changes and having a character develop and age? I mean, it seems like Marvel and DC just really don't like their characters developing.
I had a couple of really special arrows in my quiver. I had Mike Gold, who was my editor, who once again gave me carte blanche with Green Arrow, and Dick Giordano. When Dan Jurgens was penciling Green Arrow, Dick was the inker, and we tackled issues that were pretty much cutting edge for comics. We dealt with everything from drugs to HIV to problems of gay bashing, trafficking, the sex trade, and we just hit them over the head with it. A lot of my stories came out of the headlines, and I've been accused of being a misogynist, which is the furthest thing from the truth. If once again, I'm going to point to my wife. I'm really, really attracted to strong, independent women. And
It's
and
so sad seeing people do that online these days. They like to label people all sorts of things, and it's like you don't know somebody. Somebody wrote a story, you like it or you don't, but doing that to somebody is very. It's such a personal attack that's so nasty and uncalled for. It really is.
right,
So
right. It is the just because I've done a lot of stories with a backdrop of war doesn't mean I'm pro-war.
right.
The war just happens to be a very dramatic setting for a human story, and that's what I'm in pursuit of. In the case of Green Arrow, Denny had set up the character to where he was pretty ultra liberal, and he had excuse me, made one bad shot where he accidentally kills a guy, and he goes withdraws from society, joins a monastery, shaves his head, burns his bow, swears that he will never ever take another human life. Well, following Sable, which was fairly hard into real world stuff, um, that's not the kind of character or the kind of story that I wanted to tell. And I knew that my readers were not looking for that kind of stuff. So, first of all, I had to change something fundamentally about the character. We got that big change thing going, right? Um, the and how I did that was that uh, I set up a situation where Dinah Lance, the Black Canary, has been captured by bad guys, and she's strung out from a forklift in a warehouse when Ollie finds her, and she's been beat. She's there, she's helpless, and the bad guy has her by the hair and a knife in the other hand. And what does Ollie do? He's already demonstrated that he can shoot a knife out of a guy's hand with no problem at all. But what did he do? He shot him square through the heart. Because why? The son of a bitch had it coming. But that also, created the scenario for me to springboard that into the changes in the character. From that moment, I compared it in a later story to stepping off the edge of a cliff. Once you jump, you can't unjump. And that moment of decision, that choice that you made, affects you for the rest of your life. And that's what it did. His relationship with Dinah, that had been intense, long-term, loving, intimate. Ollie and Dinah had probably the best sex life in comics for mainstream comics. I mean, there was no question in anybody's mind. They were shacking up, and they were at it every chance they got. And all of a sudden, she can't stand to be touched. And he has his own issues of guilt over what he's done. And that conflict, that personal, emotional conflict in the relationship was what drove that storyline forward, because my entire arc of Green Arrow is a love story between Ollie and Dinah. It is. No matter where you go in it, that's the continuing thread. It's the glue that holds everything together.
I love it. Yeah, great job with these characters. I'm so excited to read Sable somewhere where you're not even constrained by another corporate property because it's yours. You can do whatever you want with the characters. And
Yes,
that's very, very exciting to me, because I think you can go even, I haven't read this, but I'm assuming you can go even further in depth in making those characters change and do cool things with them. So guys, check this out. Please back this. Jeff, you are doing the Lord's work in making books like this into these absolute sized editions.
I'm just a fan who got lucky enough. I'm a fan who got lucky enough to be able to work with Mike and convince him that this was a good idea. And we're having the time of our life seeing this whole thing come together. It's amazing.
Awesome.
I want everybody.
I couldn't have and wouldn't have done this without Jeff.
Aw.
Well,
Great
yeah,
stuff.
like
Any,
I said, just
any
a
last
fun
words,
affair.
gents? Yeah.
Go get this book. You'll be glad you did. If you like the Green Arrow stuff that Mike did, this is the precursor to that. This is the series that without John Sable, I don't think we would have gotten the Green Arrow that we got when
Right.
Mike took the book.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
You're correct.
Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, chat, for being here. I appreciate you guys. Let's support some great comics by this wonderful legend here, who's like a huge inspiration. And I'll see you guys on the next stream as soon as I press my button. Where's my button?
Thanks, John. Thank you, everybody, and thanks to all our backers who've driven this up over $70,000 with 15 days to go. Sorry, 14 days to go.
We'll push it. We want to get this to $100. You definitely deserve a six figures young lady paycheck here. So
if we get to six figures, everybody's going to get something extra special.
Sweet.